Hello, welcome to the Afrocentric Woman. So glad you could tune in. First of all, let me start off by thanking you for being patient with me as I changed the time on this several times. And I am just really in awe of content creators that can do these long live streams and be consistent with them on the time frame because I really struggle with that. Hey, Mocha Mommy. I really struggle with that because it's like I have to have the whole house quiet. I have to there's just so many things that go into being able to live stream. And my anxiety is a little bit high was a little bit high today, so I just needed to take a shower with my lavender oil, with my Epsom salt, and I was like, I know I'm running late, but let me do what I gotta do so I can kind of bring my energy down some and kind of ground myself. So I took some minutes to do that, and then I also made myself some tea. So I've got I think this is turmeric's ginger spice tea with some lemon and honey in there. So I got my tea and I'm live with you. So I wanted to talk just briefly about dating Asian men because I guess that's a group of guys that I've started to pay more attention to that I would just normally swipe left, 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 left. Like they're normally like guys that I wouldn't necessarily pay attention to. But you know what? I've just decided why not? I mean, I feel like I've talked to other women who have been like other black women who've been in a relationship with with Asian guys. And actually a girlfriend of mine that I used to run with back in the day, she married this Indian guy, and it was kind of a little bit of a kerfuffle. I know his family did have a little bit of time, needed some time to ac- accept her, but she's like a light skinned black woman, and he's a dark skinned Indian guy. Crazy thing about it was the particular city that we were living in, she she had been dating him on and off for a while, but like it was basically like he wanted her to move to a different state, and her stipulation was like, I'm not moving without a ring, right? And so before you know it, she's engaged and they have a date set and everything else like that. Now at this time that she's getting engaged to this Indian man, I'm dealing with a Dusty who also wants me to move across state. And I'm so in my pick Misha, stage of life that I don't realize that I really do hold the power, and I could have maneuvered that probably any type of way that I wanted to. And I really had no business dealing with that Dusty at all. But, you know, that's a story for another day. We could talk about that at another time. But nonetheless, I reached out to my girlfriend not long ago on WhatsApp, and she's still happily married. They have two kids. So one of her kids is my kid's age, and then she has another smaller baby. So they've got two boys, super cute. I think she may or may not work. I don't know, but I know she's very comfortable in her city and happily married. So, that was something that, was kind of tucked away in the back of my mind that it is possible. I think that these pairings of Asian men and black women used to be a little bit more taboo, but they're definitely becoming more prevalent. And I think that I think for me, one of the things that was holding me back, not that I wouldn't think like some Asian guys are cute, and I think a lot of South Asian guys are cute, like from Sri Lanka, India. I don't know if it's because maybe they're more melanated or something, but um I think a lot of guys from that region are attractive. I think part of what was holding me back from trying, dating them a shot was the fact that I felt that they held all these negative views about Black people and about Black women. And I thought that, that maybe they would just use me for a while, but then they wouldn't take me seriously. those are some of my beliefs, and I think that that kind of goes across the board, like to white guys and to Asian guys to some extent. Latino guys, I've dated plenty of them. So most of the Latino guys that I've dated have been Afro Latinos, so it's not really like a racial difference. Like we are both black, it's just the cultural difference. And I feel very comfortable in that culture, so it wasn't like, wasn't so jarring. Whereas with white or with Asian, it's a little bit more like two different worlds kind of a thing. So, I mean, I just kind of had to let that go. I mean, I think the more you delve into the psychology of the Black male collective, the more you realize that they hold a lot of disdain and, a low esteem of Black women. So it's not like I'm leaving this loyal, devoted group of men who, are completely in service to women and children and wanting to start families and wanting to protect us. Like, it's not like I'm leaving this utopia for the unknown that's going to be this evil, bad thing. I just think that across the board, dark skin and brown skin Black women have a global social status that needs to be elevated, and that any man can look at us any type of a way, and that doesn't um so we just have to vet each man individually. So regardless of his race, regardless of his culture, regardless of his family background, we'll just have to vet them individually. And I don't think that we could flock to any group of men like, oh, this whole group of men is going to be this great group of men and they're going to accept us and love us. I just think that, we just have to pick the best man for the job. And I think that also with my timeline of, like, I want to, like, I know, like, I do have the pretty privilege on my side right now, but I know that that's not going to be forever. So I feel like I need to expand my options as much as possible right now. Like, now is the time. So that's why I've opened up to Asian guys. So I'll just tell you like a little bit about like what I have going on right now. And if anybody would like to share their experience, if you have dated Asian guys or if you're thinking about it, then I'm gonna open up the phone lines for you guys to call in. Okay, so right now, I have like a couple of Indian guys in my queue. I have gone out with Indian guys in the past. So, like, what I found is a sweet spot for Indian guys is like mid 40s to like early 50s divorced. For whatever reason, I don't know if they're doing like fertility or what, but like Indian guys will literally have two kids, like one girl, one boy, and that's it. Like, they perfectly plan out everything and they don't want any more than two children. In my personal experience, I've so I've okay, so even like guys I don't necessarily end up going out on a date with, I'll ask them certain questions like about their culture just to understand further, like on my end. And so as has been explained to me, divorce is very, very, very taboo in India. They have like a less than 5% divorce rate. It's extremely low. But when these couples immigrate over to the United States, of course they have more options to divorce, and divorce is a whole lot less taboo over here, even within the Indian community inside the United States. So these guys that I've kind of gravitate towards are divorce, and they've been divorced for over 2 years, and they have joint custody of their kids and they're kind of sharing it. And so being a single mom, not that I like bring up my child right away, but it's not a big deal because they already have kids. So they're less judgmental about that. And they kind of are looking for somebody with children because if they're divorced and they've already had their two kids, they likely don't want more children. So that's a really good demographic to target if you don't want children, or if you Um, if you don't want children, or if you already have children and you're fine not having any more. Now, some Indian guys that I talked to maybe like last year, who didn't have children, like me having a child was just, they were shocked. Like they were really interested in me, but I just don't think that they could wrap their mind around that. I don't think that they could wrap their mind around like, well, blended families is like not a thing in India, if that makes any sense. So that wasn't, and plus these were newer immigrants. So a lot of the guys who I've had good conversations with and good dates with, they've been here for several years, like 15 to 20 years. So they're Indian, but they're super Americanized, right? So there's that. So some of the more recent immigrants who don't have children, it's been more of a challenge, and they're younger and they're a little bit more like eager beavers. They just kind of, I feel like some of the younger guys have just really been very like sexually motivated, you know what I mean? Whereas the older divorced guys are more relationship oriented. They want companionship. They want a smart and beautiful woman to talk to and take out. So, yeah, I would probably avoid younger guys who just got over here. They got like these like tech jobs. They're making really good money, but they're really, really frugal. So I was talking to this other Indian guy, and I like to kind of talk about my expectations and standards and like things that I like to do early on. And we were talking about types of dates that we like, and like I don't remember my exact words, but I was kind of hinting at like how comfortable are you with spending money like on your dates because I just need to know this because I know like stereotypically Indians can be a little bit cheap. And so he was like, "Oh, I understand. I know that if I'm taking you out, I know I have to do everything for you and blah 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 blah." And I was just like, "Well, why do I don't know how I got on it, but like why are Indian men like y'all don't like why do some of them don't like to spend?" Or he's like, "Well, we're very frugal and we don't have retirement like you guys have. We don't have 401k in our country, so our parents start saving basically from like as soon as they start working, their parents start saving up for their retirement so that they can actually have a retirement. And so that's why they don't like to spend extra on anything what they would consider to be extravagant." And I was like, okay, all right, I guess I can understand. But I was like, with all that said, you have to understand I am American, so I don't go by those standards. So if you go and date me, you got to be comfortable spending money. And I just told him straight up, like, I'm not beating around the bush, and I'm not telling you have to do anything, but I'm just saying, if you want to come over here, then you're opting into the American style of spending money. Okay. He was like, I'm fine with that. Okay, great, perfect. Then we're off to the races then, sir. So that's kind of been that with the Indian guys. So I had this date, the one that I had last week was with this Indian executive guy. He's divorced, and he seems totally smitten with me. And he's been a sweet guy, like nothing creepy, nothing weird. He's from the southeast region. And so I think I talked about that a little bit in the other video that I did, that I was like, um basically like, let him be right, get what you want. That's the guy that I was referring to, and he wants to take me out again this weekend. So I'm trying to I have to arrange childcare, but I'd like to go out with him this weekend. But side note, y'all, I am going on this boat tour this weekend, so I'm really excited about that. The guy that I went out with last week, um he's from Kenya, and I told him that I really wanted to go on the boat ride. And then he was like hounding me for the links. I sent him the link to the company, and then he just booked it. And I love that. Like, he didn't ask, he was like, "What day are you available? I don't know. What do you want to do? How do you?" He just booked it. He's like, "Hey, I got our tickets. We're good." I was like, "Oh, that's so sweet. I'm really looking forward to that." And then the Indian guy wants to take me out on he wants to take me out on Saturday. So now I started having a conversation with this guy from the Philippines, and he seems very sweet. it was just so refreshing. Like, I don't even know at this point, like, what is the purpose of me swiping on an African American guy? Like, there's no purpose. Like, why do I keep doing it? It's like I keep doing it thinking that, oh, maybe this one has some good sense. Or like, oh, maybe he's not that bad. And like, we're talking older guys. Let me see. There's a 67-year-old African American acting like he has no damn sense. Just no sense at all. Anyway, let me not even, we're not talking about African American guys tonight. But it was just so refreshing to talk to him after talking to, like, dealing with these African Americans on the site that want to be the prize. Oh God, where is he in my little lineup? Because he asked the sweetest question. I just thought it was so sweet. He said something along the lines of, so are you considering me? I thought it was so sweet. I was like, yes, of course I'm considering you. And was it him or was there, okay, so there's another Asian guy that I started talking to, but I'm not sure where he's from. I think he's from Korea, but I can't tell. Or he's from Japan. I can't quite tell where he's from, and I don't like to be rude as far as, like, I feel like Asian Americans want to like feel American too. You know what I'm saying? So I don't like to be like, so what's your ethnicity? I don't like to do that. So the way I do it is when we're talking, I'll be like, oh, do you have a lot of family in our state? And usually they'll kind of open up and they'll say, oh, well, I have such and such and such and such. And then the rest of my family is in India. Or, oh, the rest of my family is in the Philippines. Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of a more respectful way to kind of find out a little bit about their background without making them like, oh, you're obviously not American. So where is your family from? You know what I'm saying? So now with this guy, the guy that I'm not really sure where he's from, I asked him that question and he was like, "Oh, I have family in Washington State and California and such and such." And then he stopped talking. He didn't explain further. So eventually I think that I'll figure out, like where his family's from. But he also seems like a sweet guy, mid 40s. The other guy is like late 40s, the guy from the Philippines. And yeah, we just had a really good conversation, and I'm looking forward to going on a date with both of these guys as soon as time allows. So I'm swiping and considering Asian guys. Like, I'm happy to be expanding my options, and don't know why I've been letting these sweet guys, bypassing these sweet guys for all this time. But it is just really refreshing to, like, the way their culture works. Like, the woman is the prize. The woman is literally the prize, and you'll feel that. And I think, like, that's why I try to avoid American guys altogether, because I do feel like in a lot of other cultures, men still pursue women, which, the way I function, I'm not a super aggressive woman that chases men. So I don't, it just won't work. Like, if I won't chase you and you won't chase me, then that means that we don't get to have a relationship. So I'm sorry I don't have more content to share about this because I'm just now getting into the game. But I would love to hear from you ladies. So I'm gonna share the call-in link if you want to join the stream. You're welcome to share your experience if you have any, or maybe ask any questions to the chat or whatever. Feel free to join. And y'all, while I wait to see if anybody wants to call in, I was working on the video. I'll probably schedule it for tomorrow. The part two to becoming a good receiver. I don't know why I was like obsessing over the picture. Just obsessing for no good reason. Just anxiety, probably. But I finally found one that I liked. Okay, let me pin this. Oh crap. Is it gonna let me pin it? Did y'all catch Crystalline's live today? I'm so excited for her that she reached 100,000 subscribers. That's a milestone. And I'm glad that she's been around all this time because honestly, when I first found her content, I wasn't ready for it. I just wasn't ready. So it's important to just keep, on your path and to continue to show up because you never know who's going to be ready when. And I wasn't ready then. And I don't even think I really understood what the message was. I think I just thought swirling, I don't swirl really, so what's the point? Welcome to the stage, Mocha Mommy.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing wonderful. You heard my spiel about my anxiety and all that jazz, but other than that, I'm doing great.
Oh, good. But I've actually only been like casually dated one Asian man, and he was from Hong Kong, and it was through like a singles ministry at a church.
Hmm.
And on Thursday on my channel, I'm gonna be collaborating with a woman who is actually married to an Asian American man. Um, and she's just gonna be kind of I'm gonna just be kind of sharing like online dating, like algorithm tips, whatever. But I mean, most of my experience I find is basically through my oldest daughter. She just tends to attract a lot of Asian American boys, and I know a lot of it has to do with the school she goes to, and also talking to this woman offline, like young Black women with that like proximity to Weeb culture are um, are really popular with like younger like Asian American boys.
Proximity to what culture?
Weeb culture, like they like anime and like
Oh,
EDM
okay.
music. Yeah, they're gamers. So like they have just been finding themselves having a lot of success in that area. And I know that I guess when you're kind of starting to date as a teenager, I know that can be really complicated. And but she is starting to say something how I try not to.
Are you here, Mocha Mommy? I think you went out for a quick second.
At the same time, I'm starting to notice like she's starting to kind of like ask me about, I guess, like the pathology.
Okay, Mocha Mommy, I think you're cutting in and out.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. But yeah, she's just asking like questions like, why does it seem so complicated when it's not complicated with this demographic of boys? And I'm like, I was like, well, you want to be honest, but at the same time, you want them to draw their own conclusions.
Okay, now are you talking about she comparing like when Asian young men try to talk to her versus African American or
Yeah, pretty much.
okay. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I think at some point I realized that I I'm not like and you know what brought this up to me today was listening to Crystalline's live and listening to what Kendall St. Charles was saying as far as these men, like if these men care, like the black men, if they cared about community building and family building the way they say they do, they wouldn't be 50 something and single, or 50 something and still like chronically dating. And it's like, well, why haven't you gotten married? Well, I haven't met the right woman. And it's like, it's not that you haven't met the right woman. It's just the fact that no woman's ever going to be good enough in your eyes, and you don't want to invest the time, resources, and energy that it takes to create a family, and that you're fully satisfied with just kind of being promiscuous. You have this captive audience of desperate women with very low standards. So, what's the incentive for you to get off that hamster wheel? And I was just thinking, like, there was this guy, like, I don't know, like, I'm allergic to pandering. So when I hear these black guys pandering, like, oh, I love the black woman is queen and this and that, and it's like, where is your wife? Where's your wife?
Exactly.
Why aren't you married if you love black? You've traveled the globe. Like some of these males that I've talked about in the past, they have traveled the globe. They could probably circle it 2 or 3 or 4 times. They've been to every city, every town, all the universities. They've met the upper echelon, the very best that we have to offer. Beauty queens, scholars, supermodels, Vix. You have met the best we have to offer and everything in between. However, none of these black women are qualified to be a wife or even claim her as a public girlfriend. You know what I mean? You guys just want to like appear on the scene to be single, but you've ripped the globe how many times, and none of these black women are satisfactory. Like none of them. You can't make me believe that you're 55 and you've never met a woman worthy of marriage. Why won't you just say you don't want to be married and you don't value marriage? Like, and if you won't say it, I'll say it because I don't need you to tell me what I see. You know what I mean? Like, you're not about to gaslight me. I see what I see, and I see what is happening, and this is something that you don't want. So, yeah, I really question guys like that. But I think you should talk to your daughter and help her understand the psychology. I think you can save her a lot of time. I mean, she will she will come to her own conclusions, but I do think it helps to know, like, you're not crazy, baby girl. Like, really, truly, there's something going on in this community where, we're not rearing our boys to um, we're not rearing our boys to pursue women and to be of service to women and children and to value the role of the family of protector and provider. Like that is still missing. And so, oh gosh, it gives me a headache. I think I'm going to take like I might need to take a YouTube break, a social media break, because I'm getting a little burned out.
Yeah, I can understand. But so basically the conversation that we had was about like F-boy culture, and I just kind of explained to her like unfortunately they've just been kind of like enculturated to just be kind of like and I just told her like how many times I have seen men just risk their future, their family, their fortune on just trying to perpetuate this F-boy culture because they think that's what they have to be.
Hmm.
um, where you have this other little boy who has no problem taking you to the movies and introducing you to his mother and um, being like wanting for you to be around his friends and meet his friends, like within, you know, days or weeks of meeting you, you know, and coming right up to me like, hey, Mrs. Blah, 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 I'm this, you know, and they don't have a problem with that or not being intimidated that your dad has, you know, rules and being respectful of them, especially when you're on a gaming platform and, you know, not asking you to sneak things or being respectful of your dad's rules. And um, so I'm grateful for that, you know, and it's like, you know, I don't, it's just unfortunate that that's not part of our culture. And like you know, because I don't know, we want to have our kids to be fair, you know, we want them to be fair, but at the same time, I had to really let her know like the prevalence of F boy culture versus other cultures of young men who don't do that.
Yeah. I had started recording a video on rearing black boys because, my godmother, which a lot of the lessons that she's taught me over the years, I didn't implement them fully, and some of them I didn't really implement at all, but I did observe her raising a son. And one of them was older. And she told me, she said, my biggest regret with my oldest son is that I turned him over to the brotherhood too soon. That's what she said. She said, I regret turning him over to the brotherhood too soon because much of everything that she instilled in him, once he started interacting with other black males, a lot of that stuff got eroded and erased away. So with the second son, which there was a huge age difference, because that was like the youngest child, she kept him closer longer and instilled a lot more lessons in him, and just very methodical about it. And so, with her doing sisterhood work and me watching how she helps other women who have boys, and just all these little things that I know, like they seem silly, but like something as simple as she told me, she was like, yeah, if when your kid, as soon as your son can walk, like make him do something every time before he eats. I don't care what it is. If he's 2 years old, say, okay, son, I'm going to make you, but you need to go line up those shoes like in a straight row, or like go do this, or like go do that. She was like, it's so important that you make him earn his food every single time. And that, just all these little lessons added up. And I'm just like, I think for some cultures, it might be a little bit more inherent in what they do. But then with us, we have to be more intentional because we've gotten so far away from how we rear our children. And I don't know if it's that we're trying to like rear the boys like girls, but they're not girls. So they just end up being so like jealous and disgruntled and dysfunctional towards their counterparts, right? And it's like, I don't know. We don't give you what you need to succeed, but you're a god at the same time. I mean, I can imagine for a little kid that must be kind of confusing. And nonetheless, they come into adulthood ill-equipped, not ready to be fathers and husbands. Basically, like chronologically men, but like not developed.
Yeah, and I couldn't imagine what it'd be like, because it's challenging enough raising two daughters, and but like seeing the difference too, like with my spouse being Hispanic, like yeah, they have a single mom, I guess, epidemic too, I guess, with especially being like in a border state where like immigration is very precarious right now. There's cartel violence and like a lot of migrant, sometimes people will travel back and forth for work. And so that you see single moms, but then there's also other communities of men. So there's not, like my husband, yeah, his dad died when he was younger, but at the same time, um, he had really super hands-on uncles and grandfathers from both sides. But here we have like absentee uncles, big brothers, grandpas. So, but there, she'll meet a boy and she'll meet like three generations of his family, like knowing the kid for like 2 or 3 weeks. And it's pretty amazing. I mean, and I mean, and I think for us, if we're gonna go out and date out, I guess maybe we can't be like overwhelmed by it.
Yeah, I think it's good that we are starting to at least understand the playing field a little bit more, understand that we were overvaluing what we thought we had, that we really didn't even have it. You know what I mean? And so now we're opening up our eyes. But I think that if people can start small, because I've talked to so many women where they're like, I have an aesthetic, right? I like tall. I want him to be 6'2". I want him to be chocolate with muscles. And I'm like, I'm so over that. Like, girl, I am so over that aesthetic. I give zero fucks about that aesthetic. I just don't care. And I'm like, if you ever experience somebody taking care of you and paying bills, your eyes will change. And the things that you think you thought were attractive are going to change. When you actually get into a relationship with a real man that starts caring for you, your eyes literally change. And I'm like, you may not think that you may not think that you can go there because maybe you've only dated black men all your life, but if you don't at least try, and get out there and meet different guys, then you'll never know how you do.
Yeah, that's true. I think you got a good point there. Um, but yeah, I can't lie. My spouse is really handsome, but he's tall and handsome. I mean, he definitely is tall. I mean, and
Yeah.
it was like when I first met him, I was like, man, this guy is attractive. He's probably a mess, But um, yeah, and that baseball player body with the chest and the shoulders, I'm like, oh man, this guy's good looking. But it's interesting what like my daughter finds attractive. Um, Usually it's like very like unkempt kind of hair and very like uh, shaggy looking clothes and like Chuck Taylors.
Mhm.
But I kind of find like if a boy is has like the courage to like show up to school with like orange hair and an anime t-shirt, I've noticed that that boy's pretty secure in who he is. Right? You
Mhm.
know what I mean? Like that's the thing I've noticed. Like, wow, you definitely are doing like the homeless man chic vibes right now, but you're rocking it because you are so confident in who it is you are. Like, and I can definitely see why that's attractive because my husband's like, why is she always attracted to these boys who look like dirty laundry? But I definitely see it, like, because they're super secure in who they are.
Maybe it's an age thing, and
Could be.
I think, I mean, I know when I was working back in the day and dealing with a bunch of Silicon Valley people, I mean, they look broke, but they're
Yeah.
not. They're like millionaires driving a Prius or whatever. So, it's just a different package, a new generation, and she's still probably gonna just be figuring out um what, like, as she develops what she likes at any given period of time. But it's good to have a mom who um has an open line of communication, with you, so that you don't have to navigate it by yourself. I mean, me and millions of black women were simply told, don't come home pregnant.
Hmm.
And that
Yeah.
was the extent of our dating advice. That was the extent of our dating advice. I mean, like, the where, when, and how you weren't going to get pregnant was all up to you. And so I think, forward thinking Gen Xers and lots of millennial mothers are definitely having a different approach to having more courage to talk about things. I mean, I guess our parents just felt uncomfortable talking about sex. They felt uncomfortable talking about relationships and dating and all of that. So we just kind of I felt like I just got tossed to the wolves, like, whatever, figure it out.
Yeah. I mean, I think my parents thought that the Bible was going to do it for me, like going to church. And I think that maybe they thought that my dating experience was going to be really similar to theirs.
Mm,
Like they thought it was going to be, you finish school and the boy you went to school with or the boy you went to church with was the guy you ended up marrying because you knew his family, he knew your family. You know what I mean? I think that like this whole thing about dating, I don't think my parents really have like these huge dating histories. My grandparents definitely didn't. My
mhm.
grandparents knew each other from high school. you know, that was it. Like my grandmother literally graduated high school and on a Sunday and got married on a Tuesday.
Wow,
So
yeah,
there wasn't.
my grandparents too. My grandparents did that too. So I guess they really didn't teach our parents anything because they didn't have much to teach them. So then, I mean, you got lucky, but some of us have really, really bumped our heads out here, and got caught up in a bunch of difficult situations due to um, lack of guidance, not understanding, your worth, and not having any type of, like, I mean, we live in a mammy pick me culture, that tells you to date down and to endure all levels of foolishness for the sake of being in a relationship. So that's sort of the system surrounding, and then a mom who's just a hot mess and didn't give you any information. And it's like, yeah, don't come home pregnant.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
I'm just saying that,
Yeah.
say that, your baby girls are lucky and mine is lucky too, because I'm praying I'm not overbearing, but I will be telling her as much information as possible.
Right.
And
Yeah.
as much, and we're doing private school, as much as I'm investing into this
Yes.
child, I wish you would try to bring a Dusty to this house.
Exactly.
Squander my
Exactly.
damn
We're
investment. You will not.
right.
Yeah, no ma'am, Pam.
Yeah. And what's so funny is because when it comes to like some of the hypergamy content creators out here, and I'm saying like this is no different than what private school dads are telling their middle school daughters. Like what adult black women are getting is no different from what these private school dads have been telling their daughters at like 10, 11, and 12 years old. Like no kidding. I'm like you could easily sit at the PTA at my kid's school and be talking about this same exact thing about what you want to happen at the sixth grade dance.
Hmm.
So, and we're just getting that now as adult black women. Like, realize that a lot of the world functions this way. Nobody is sending their daughters to private school or private exclusive colleges or putting them in pageants or getting them to play certain sports so that they can marry some nice guy who works at FedEx. Like, that's not happening. That's not what's happening at all.
Yeah, no way, Jose. I know for me, um, I mean, we never had those conversations. And I was actually, when I was super, because I got involved with the Power to the People stuff very young. So when I was in high school, I was in NAACP. And then some of the kids who were in NAACP with me were in Jack and Jill. And they're like, why aren't you in Jack and Jill? And I'm like, I don't want to be with, you guys are so bougie. I'm already
Mm-hmm.
in a predominantly white school. I have to deal with white people and aggression all day. Like, now you want me to get away from the white people and then go deal with y'all bougie ash? No, I don't want to. So that was kind of like my attitude then. But like now that I'm in a different position, now that I am, you know, seeing the pathology and seeing that a life of servitude to the Black community doesn't really pay, in the long run, you just end up getting completely drained. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's I prefer to kind of I serve from afar. I serve from afar, and that is working for me. That I dip in, I might do a little project here and there, show my face, be encouraging or whatever, and then I'm out. Right? I'm back over to my safe zone, to my haven. Um, but now I really see the value in um, cultivating relationships with other families, who are raising your children. They're raising their children similarly. I've struggled with that. I really have, I really have struggled with that. Next year, we're going to be going to a different school, so I'm thinking it's going to be better. But it's super important. I mean, I just see the value in it because there's my child might come home saying certain things like, we don't have violence in this home. There's no violence in my home. I don't curse at my child. I don't beat my child. Nobody beats me. Nobody talks to me crazy. I don't talk to anybody crazy. So she doesn't know anything about that. So when I see these children and they're like talking crazy to each other or like bullying each other, I know that they're learning that in their house. And so I'm just like, do I want my child around your child? Not really. I would prefer not. Not right now, because this is the early development stage. So no, not really.
Yeah, but even as like teenagers, you still have to be careful because I mean, I'm kind of noticing like even with I guess that quote unquote like weeb culture. There's like a depressive, like self-deprecating kind of
Mhm.
undercurrent to it, and we had that, and we had to talk about that. Like, we're not going to be on this whole self-deprecating train either, especially at this point in your life. Like, we're not doing this. Like, this whole like emo, overly emotional. Like, we're not doing this at all. You know, um,
I
there's some dangerous elements to that too.
What was that, Mocha Mommy?
Like, there's some dangerous elements to some of this other side too. Like, I've just kind of noticed like there's like a this underlying emo, self-deprecating kind of culture too on the other side. Like, especially like where with my oldest daughter being part of that weeb culture, there's that self-deprecating part of it, and I'm like, no, we're not going to do that either.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's like we have to kind of be aware of that too.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that that sort of like that depression, the world is against me, woe is me, like I like that they go through. I think it transcends a few other little pockets of stuff too. Because I
Hmm.
just remember like now my niece is graduating and she's actually going getting ready to go to an Ivy League school. Well, she just graduated last week.
Wow.
And now she's kind of finding herself, but I just remember talking to her over and over and over and over again like you get your value from inside of you. Like,
Hmm.
just like being around all these wealthy kids and like really there's nothing wrong with your life. Like you have everything available to you. You don't have to
Hmm.
work. What is the problem? But I know I try to kind of understand like for whatever reason they go through this period of time where they just think like the world is against them and
Right.
and it's just like we just have to love them through it. I don't know that there's any way around it. I mean, like I can't say I didn't listen to Marilyn Manson and Kurt Cobain and was
Hmm.
had my black lipstick and I can't. I went through it, so like it's
Yeah.
they, they may have to go through their some type of version of it. But I think just having that line of communication with them to know like I'm a support system, I'm here for you. I'll listen to what you have to say. I'm not going to judge you. I've been there too, and these are some ways that you can express yourself that don't involve harm. These are some
Right.
tools, these are some things that you can do to express yourself because I think it's just part of that individuating process that they go through around that time. And it's a bit tumultuous.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I've got two teenage girls, so yeah, it is tumultuous. Tumultuous is the right word. And it's not like I have bad kids. I have good kids. And you know what I mean? And they have good friends, and their friends are good people. And I like their parents, even though their parents can be, there's some parents who are, you know, you know how private school parents can be.
Mhm, mhm.
But, um, and then the whole thing too, when you kind of talk about like, I guess the black Latino and Asian thing, like there could be definitely some challenges with parents too, especially if they're like first generation, more so than those who've been here for two and three generations. Yeah.
With
Um,
accepting Black and Latino like ethnicities in their circles or
right, like kind of, yeah, and even still being a little passive aggressive when it comes to, because they like, for instance, this was one boy in particular, like his parents are a little, they have strict rules. So a lot of the events, social events that he does always revolve around his family. And he tends to invite my daughter to those events because he really can't like go out and do a lot of things by himself.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, there's kind of a limit to that. So even still, you'll be there and still you'll see some of them like they'll be speaking Tagalog and they'll not really include you in the conversation. And they're, like, hey, our kids are friends, and it's like they kind of like stick to mostly each other, and but not realizing that him and my daughter have known each other forever and they've been friends forever, and they have like um and I definitely get their concern, and we have a lot of the same concerns, having 17-year-olds. We have a lot, believe it or not, we're on the same team. So you don't have to like be passive aggressive and exclude me because trust me, I have the same concern, if not more, than you do.
And
So,
I mean, I think you bring up a very point of just navigating these different spaces and,
hmm
you know, and just kind of being flexible, being open-minded, knowing who you are, because I think that as we come into a lot of these different spaces, we will maybe not get the welcome mat every single place, or be
hmm
fully accepted by everybody. But what I really like to focus on is, like, of all these people, who is warm, of all these people, who is inviting, who is willing to speak English with me, and focus on those who are healthy. Focus on those who are welcoming and accepting of you, and try to tune out those who have an attitude, because sometimes I think that the squeaky wheel gets the attention. So sometimes we can kind of focus on relationships that are not working, and this is just in general. We can focus on relationships that are not working, or people who don't accept us, or people who have something to say, or people who are nice nasty, or whatever you call it. And meanwhile, there's two or three over here who would be happy to have you come and chat with them. So I guess, like, within a space, within a space, within a space, we as Black women will continue to go where we're celebrated.
right.
Period. Like, once we're in there, again, we'll just drill down to who's gonna celebrate with us, and not let that deter us from expanding our options and mingling in different spaces.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I did notice like me being in the medical field was definitely like a lubricant because so many of his family is as well. So like, and even me and one of his aunts have I guess some like mutual work friends. So that did help for sure. But I just find it really interesting because my oldest daughter just she has a lot of currency in this area in her life. Like she has a lot of currency being an artist, being able to draw anime style, being a gamer. She just has currency here, and it's like I want the absolute best for her. So and the woman been speaking to, and the woman who's going to do the video with me, I'm really happy. Um, that she's been so open about her experience with having to navigate this because I'm just hoping that maybe she can give me some advice on how I can help my daughter because I'm noticing she just has like a lot of currency in this area. So
Yeah,
yeah.
as long as she knows that I mean, have fun for a while, and she has lots of time to have fun and figure out what she likes and what she doesn't like. And then when the time comes, she should pick the very best option. Very
Exactly.
best option. Please, can we retire marrying just for love? Can we just retire that, for goodness sake?
Right. Yeah. I agree. I agree.
Girl, you so beautiful. That's what I had to tell my niece too, because she's actually 1/4 Asian. Her grandmother is Korean, so she's got the,
Okay.
like, Blasian look. And I said,
Right.
"Well, look, you're at the situation where you really do have access. Not right now, because high school boys are weird. Like, middle school,
Yes.
high school, Black
Yes.
boys are weird. They don't really start going after us until towards the end of high school, right? Then they're all of a sudden real. I do like Black women after all. Listen, I'm like, listen, you are going to have access to the best that Black men have to offer, but you also have access to any man you want. So, um, relax, sit back, and vet offers, basically. Like,
Right.
pick the very best man for the job. But you, like, and she was kind of like, the Black boys are acting weird. I'm like, girl, don't worry about them. Don't worry about them. You don't even know if these guys are gonna make it. You're in high school. You don't even know if
Right.
these guys are gonna make it. Like, you're gonna make it because it will be impossible for you not to. Your family won't allow
hmm
that. But you don't know if these guys are gonna make it. So there's no reason losing too much sleep over, like, what side of the bed they wake up on. Um,
Right.
I just, like, girl, if I could explain to you, because of the way you look and the way you present, you will have access to whatever you want. Okay,
Right.
whatever you want. I think
Right.
I think I planted a seed. I don't think that it was all the way sinking in because young people are very much in the moment. They're very much in the moment. They're less thinking about 10 years, 5 years from now, blah blah. They're not thinking about that. But I'm
Hmm.
hoping that I could just have planted a seed for her to have tuck that away in the back of her mind. But she's a lot more settled in her skin these days.
Yeah. 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 I just feel like I just want, like I say, I just want to do better by like the younger generation. I mean, including my daughters. So just having to learn how to navigate this because I'm just noticing, okay, you have some currency over here, and how can we use this currency to your best advantage? And then my youngest daughter, she's 15, and just the sport she plays, rarely are you going to see too many broke boys in this sport. You know what I mean? It's not like I mean, so I don't know. I'm and also too, just the way her mind works, I think I'm a lot less, I don't want to say worried. Yeah, maybe that's the word I'd say. I'm a little bit less worried about the younger one than I am about the older one,
Hmm.
because the older one, she's artistic and she's a little flighty, where the younger one is a very decisive person. She's a lot like my husband, a lot like my husband, like very decisive. Um, and yeah, she knows what she wants. Um, so yeah, and she knows she's not interested in dating right now, which
Yeah.
thank God. But you know
You
what I
could
mean?
you could save that
Yeah,
heartache for another day.
yeah,
You can
yes,
kick that
yes.
can down the road.
Yeah, yeah. There are boys who like her, and she likes that they like her, but she likes that they like her enough to like carry her equipment, not like
Mm.
she likes them enough to like reciprocate.
Well, she shouldn't be. I mean, her just
Right?
showing up, that is what they get. They get to look at her.
Exactly.
So, yeah,
Exactly.
carry the stuff, and she should
Yeah. Uh
continue
huh.
to allow them to do that kind of a stuff.
Exactly. And that's why I'm a lot less worried. She's like, mission oriented. And if you're not going where I'm going, then I don't care. And especially now,
That's so
yeah,
cute.
yes. And especially now with as far as like how social media works and how, yeah, I know why Gen X is like the most sexless generation, because social media has just shown so much, and young girls can know a lot more about a boy before the first date even happens. Like they can already tell, like just that Game Changer app alone, where you can follow your kid's statistical progress. Like they can already look and it's like, oh, his batting average is trash. Like, don't talk to that boy. Like before that, before the conversation's even done. Like yeah, like because you know how you'll have the tournaments and the boys will come over to the girls' dugouts and their cooling tents and whatever. Like they can automatically look up this boy, his number, the school he goes to, and look and be like, yeah, his batting average is trash. Or like, oh, look, he wasn't playing from this time to that time. He probably was on academic probation. He's trash. Like, and they can do that pretty easily now. Like, oh, look at the Twitch streamer he follows. He's a perv. Really, like
Wow.
yeah, it's amazing. Like, you know, yeah, dudes are sloppy, and women can find out they don't doubt their intuition at all, and they will follow it. These guys and leave. They'll follow their electronic breadcrumbs and shut these dudes down quickly.
Wow.
Yeah,
So by the time mine starts dating, who knows?
right.
Who knows where we'll be? I wish I could just do
Hmm.
arranged. I wish I could just do arranged marriage. I know I'm team too much right now, though. But yeah, that's. Ooh, I gotta. I definitely want to get that right. But you know what? I've already won. I mean, whatever she gets is way better than what I got.
True, I agree.
Whatever she gets, I'm already light years ahead of my mother. I'm already light years ahead of my mother, so she is in a great position. And she's a dark-skinned little girl. So I know like when I talk on the I've talked on the channel a lot of times. I alternate a lot between brown skin, dark skin, brown skin, dark skin. I am brown skinned, but I very much so relate to dark skinned woman issues. And then I have a baby who's dark skinned. So we have been, um, working on that since the beginning. Like she knows, she knows she's beautiful. She knows that she's beautiful.
Right.
So there's that. So she's already yeah, she's already light years ahead of where of where my trajectory was at this time. Just even just having a peaceful home. Like there's absolutely nothing too crazy over here. It's super calm. And so I didn't have that. I grew up in a lot of chaos and just confusion. So so there's that. So I'm hopeful that um I'm hopeful that this will be good for her and I'll be able to navigate supporting her through all of the changes. My goodness, all the changes that girls go through. Um did you listen? I don't know if you heard this clip. Did you hear that clip where Paris Milan interviewed that black woman who had a son and a daughter and she,
Yeah.
oh
And
my
she said
God.
around 12 and yeah, 11 or 12. Like, and he was like, she's like, boys are hard when they're younger. But yeah, oh yeah, I heard that. Man.
Yeah,
that-
that just burned into my ear, and I'll just never forget that woman's disdain for her own daughter
Mhm.
because it's definitely, not easy to support a young person through all their various changes, but
Yes.
I mean, that's on us as parents to have the wherewithal to provide anything that our children need emotionally, spiritually, mentally, financially, everything, until they're able to do it for themselves. So, I have my theories about this. I've seen this before, like from a personal perspective. I've seen um, black women treat their daughters very poorly, and um, I think it has a lot to do with the mother's own unhealed trauma, and her own inability to reckon with her, monsters. Um, because you think you've forgotten it and you think that you've dealt with it, or you think, oh well, I'm alive and I have a regular job and I'm going through day to day, but you don't realize that that can manifest through victimizing someone else, which is could be your daughter. Like if you are denying your child things that they need, if you are calling your daughter a little bee because she started her mens or she had a mood swing, and um, you're not willing to talk to her or to provide her with support of any kind, that's abusive. And you think you're okay, you're not okay. You're not okay if that's how you treat your daughter. And not protecting, I think that not protecting our daughters as well.
Right.
I think it's a subconscious thing to where they weren't protected and they don't feel like they have to do that for somebody else. And that has a lot to do with unresolved trauma, a lot to do with unresolved trauma. Like, you know, my mother has alluded to things in a discombobulated way, but she hasn't just outright said, this is such and such, or this is what happened. So, it's a bunch of just a cluster F of unresolved stuff that I just have to be like, you know what? I already have a child, so I cannot manage or cater to your feelings because also that's not my job because you're the parent and I'm the child. So I'm not going to be responsible for your emotions. Check out of that, and I actually have someone who I am technically responsible for. So I'm going to focus my energy on her, not on you. There's so many black women that I talk to the most abusive relationship that they have aside from their dusty is their mother.
Yeah, that's true. And I'm so lucky that I've had healthy relationships with the women in my life, like my mother, my sorors, my older sister, my aunties. You know, I do remember feeling like a little betrayed in like the black church, kind of because my mom, her family's like black church royalty. And like walking away from that, when I saw that dysfunction, it was a rift in our relationship, but something we've definitely overcome. But I mean, to know that that's some people's whole existence, you know like you grow up in church and these are the women who taught, who were your Sunday school teachers, who you looked up to, and then you come out of college and they're trying to set you up with their dusty ex-convict sons because he quote unquote loves Jesus.
Right.
like whoa, that happens to way too many of us. And from women who we love and who probably really do love us but really think that maybe um but yeah, like with that unresolved dysfunction there, because they just really don't understand that there are populations of men out there who are not socially conditioned in that way, right? They don't, like I remember taking my husband back home, to meet some of my childhood friends, but just that a fact that a man functions that way, like, lets his wife and daughters sit down and opens the doors for them and pays for the meal, like that is like the fact that there'll be a lady on the side of the road and he'll pull over to see if she needs help with her car. Like that's a very foreign concept, to a lot of black women, unfortunately. And when they see that, that's out of the ordinary. Like, and I just realized, like, wow, we just are not used to seeing functioning men, and that becomes our standard.
Yeah, and I don't I don't know. I know that, well, this is my platform, so I guess I'll speak freely. I don't absolve black males of their abandonment and abuse, but I feel like I can't hold them accountable, and I don't feel like I have any influence, a very minuscule, if any, influence on what they do or what they don't do. Whereas I feel like I have more influence with black women. Um, I've helped through professionally and through community work. I don't know, hundreds of black families at this point in my life. So black women have listened to me in a lot of different ways, and I feel like at this point, for those of us who have boys, what are we going to do different? And I know, like, oh, what about the men? I know the men. I understand that. But what I'm talking about is specifically us. And maybe because that's how my godmother, brought me through my rites of passage, was how important it was to create the type of man like this. If you have a son, he's going to be somebody's husband one day. What skills and qualities do you need to instill within him to where he will be a good function in those roles one day, a good man? And how do we protect our sons from the dysfunction of the greater collective of black males, that they don't ravage and destroy our sons and indoctrinate them into their dysfunctional ways? Because I was at a cookout the other day. My One of my Pygmesia friends' daughter was having a birthday, and you know, I kind of like just got in this whole vibe with the women. Like, we're just like, we're grilling and we're talking and we're keeping an eye on the children. We got, how we do with women, we got like 18,000 things going on at the same time. So it's time to kind of start leaving the thing. And so I'm sweeping, I'm cleaning up. And then it's a matter of like taking things to the truck, like the ice chest and, fans and chairs and things like that. And I took one load and I came back and I was like, there was a teenage boy. No, there were two teenage boys, a middle-aged man and a 30-something-year-old man, and they didn't lift a finger. These are all black males. They did not lift a finger. They didn't pick, not nary a trash. And I was like, I'm not taking anything
Wow.
else to this car. I'm not. Like, I will sweep up a little bit and like keep an eye on the children, but I'm not going to take this stuff to the car while we have four grown able-bodied men that can do it. So, my friend's aunt, I was like, ask your nephew. I said, I kid you not, Mocha Mommy. I said this about 10 times. I'm pretty sure I was getting on her nerves. I said, ask your ask your nephew to take that. No, no, don't. That's a heavy box. Ask your nephew to take that. She's like, well, I don't mind. And the only one who actually got up and started doing something was the middle-aged guy, because he kept hearing me making these comments about ask him to do it. Ask him to do it. They can do it. And so he took a few loads. But the teenage, and so I kind of feel like, okay, that was the middle-aged guy. That was his son. What he should have said was, son, get up. Put your phone down. We're about to get these boxes to the car. You know,
Right.
he should have stepped in and made his son assist him. So this is the breakdown. Like, okay, so you're in your late 50s. You know what you're supposed to do, but you're allowing your son to watch all these black women who provided the food, cook the food, set up the damn food, and you can't even take this stuff to the car. But I see this over and over and over again. Like, we're not even trying to help these, like, make these boys do what they're supposed to do, put some fire under their butt and make them get up and be men. We just let them lounge around like, oh Lord.
Yeah, and I could definitely see how that was frustrating. And I know, like, when it comes to like the personal and professional mentorship, you know, I had to let it go. I had to let it go that no matter what I saw was happening, or no matter what um, I could foresee, and because I could like foresee these negative things happening down the road, um, and to just say, heard the warning, and I have to let it go because you have to pay your own consequences at this point. And that was hard to let go. That was hard to let go of, and I had to realize, like, you're right. It's really not my job anymore. It really is my job to just help Black women to navigate. And I remember making a video about it, like about um, I called it "These Adult Children," and it was like it was right around that time with Kurt Franklin's son,
Hmm.
right? And just it was like all of my experience in like military and civilian with just, you really can't take that burden on. Even when you foresee danger down the road, it really is kind of up to them. And how sometimes their biggest enemy is not us, it's each other. They have problems with each other, and we really can't take that on. So it really is just up to us as women to focus on our womanhood and our progression, because this whole thing, I guess, like the divestment talk or the divestment algorithm, I mean, there's some unfortunate things, unfortunately, that I feel happen in this side of the algorithm, but you're just going to notice that the more you are about your wealth and your wellness, the less you're dealing with a lot of African American men, and that's what's so sad. And that's kind of where like expanding your option has to kind of come open, because it's not like it was back in my mom's day or my auntie's day, where if you're a AKA or a Sigma Gamma Rho, you can go to like a Kappa or an Omega Psi Phi and say, hey, can you help me with this? It's not that way anymore.
Right.
You know, it's not that way anymore. So, ooh, and that's a whole nother issue in itself. And that's why we just have to like focus on like how are other cultures communicating so we can get what we want.
Yeah, you're
And then
absolutely
where's our
right.
currency? And where's
Hmm.
our currency? Like you were saying, like you have currency with some South Asian adult men, older men. Like that's that's great. You know where you have currency. My daughter has currency with like young, Filipino gamer boys. I mean, where's your currency? Figure that out. My oldest daughter, my youngest daughter, has a lot of currency with like white and Hispanic athletes, baseball players. So that's her currency. Like, figure out where your currency is.
Yeah, and I think black women are just gonna have to start if they're online dating, just start swiping on different guys that you wouldn't normally go for, you know, and you know, one way to kind of, aim higher is just select graduate degree. Most people with a graduate degree make good money. So just
Yeah,
set your filter to has a graduate degree. And I have other little things that I've honed over the past couple of years that help me avoid dusty situations.
right.
Um, as far as like how the profile looks and what kind of
Hmm.
clothes are they wearing, and not like Gucci and Fendi, like not name brands. These,
No,
these guys,
exactly.
yeah, these guys don't wear name brands, but there's a way like a guy will have a watch on, or like a way his haircut is, or like his frames on his lenses. You're like, oh, okay. You kind of can, there's little bitty hints that'll show you the caliber of man that you're dealing with. So that way you can gravitate towards those, because I don't want you to like go date a dusty, white guy, or a dusty Latino guy, or a dusty Asian guy. Like, no, no, no. Like, not, we're not going to go from one dust bucket to the other. No, we're going,
Exactly.
we're going up.
Right.
We're going
Yeah.
up. So,
Yeah. Yeah. When my friend started online dating, I was like, I'm going to pick your first three. Like, I'm picking from your first three matches. Like, you're not going to pick. I'm going to pick your first three. And then all of a sudden, it started becoming like, here's the criteria. Because a lot of times when you do start online dating, you do get inundated with a lot of things like in your inbox, or a lot of options that you weren't expecting. And so I was like, well, here's the thing that I want you to focus on. Like, and so one of the things that we focused on one time actually was out of state sport jerseys or baseball caps.
mm-hmm.
It's that I said, because why would somebody have a Chicago Bears jersey on in Texas? You want to find out why that is, because nine
Mm-hmm.
times out of 10, relocated here for his career.
Yeah.
So I'm like, so that was like one of the things that would be our criteria, like focus on the out of state football or sporting jerseys. And just like little, I mean, also too, it was the zip codes, right? The
Oh,
zip
that
codes.
helps. Yeah, you can focus on zip codes or a particular area, and that will really help you, find people in more affluent areas. I mean, it's so many different ways that you can get that, because it's like when I hear ladies telling me like, "Oh, I went on this date and he didn't want to pay for the food," or "I went on and I'm just like, well, how did you even get on the date? Like, how did you even get there?" Because 9 times out of 10, there was something that this guy said or did that would have given you an indication that this isn't going to be a good situation for you.
Right.
Um, so I mean, it's like, it's hard to tell if you don't have all the details, like exactly how did you end up in this place with this guy? Like, what is the backstory on it? But one thing that I could generally tell ladies is that if you avoid, let's meet up, or come by, or like, oh, just stop in to, oh yeah, just start, just anything other than, will you go out on a date with me? Just don't do it, because he, if he's somewhere and he's like, oh, just stop by, whatever, I'll be there. That's not really a date. And like, who's supposed to
Oh,
pay? Like, is he
right.
supposed to like
Exactly.
leave his friends? Like, just I know, and like some guys, they're not going to accommodate that. They're gonna be like, well, that's just too formal for me. Then just swipe, block, and move on. If it's too formal
Exactly.
for him to take you on a proper date, or ask you on a date, or set up details as it pertains to a date, it's not going to be worth your time. So I think that the more we get into a abundant state, and opening our options is going to do that for us as well. So when you open up your options, you're not so like, this date has to work, or this guy has to work out.
Exactly.
Have to follow this all the way through. You're more so like, okay, like, in order for me to go out with you, you have to actually ask me on a date, and I will accept, and then we'll come up with the details. And like, that's just how I work. So if you encounter a man that doesn't want to accommodate that, it's you don't have to have this visceral, like, emotional response to it because you're so committed to this particular situation. It's just not, he's not accommodating you from the beginning. He's likely not going to be accommodating you 5 years from now, you know?
Right. Yeah, and not seeing it as like, excuse me, as not seeing it as like failure or success, seeing it
Hmm.
as like a process. Like, I mean, walking through this with my friend, she's like, oh, this happened or this happened. I'm like, yeah, but look at what you learned, look at what happened, and that's when we started talking about, okay, a limit to how much time you spend on the phone and a limit to how much effort you guys communicate and text in the app before you guys meet in person. Like, and those were things you had to learn. Those were
Yes.
things you had to learn. Like guys who were not willing to travel to like the city center, the business district, the zip code, you found out that they probably weren't worth it anyway.
Right.
Like even if it was coffee or drinks, if you can't get downtown, you don't need to be going on a date. You don't need to be dating. Even if you can, even if it's just like to meet up for a popular happy hour spot. If you can't get an Uber to downtown, like even like one of the suggestions I had left on my channel was like with the Zoom dating during the quarantine, suggest a wine down Wednesdays. You suggest a bottle of wine, he suggests a bottle of wine, and you guys do wine down Wednesdays. Because let me tell you, if a guy doesn't have between $20 and $40 in the middle of the week between pay period, you done saved yourself the drama.
Yeah, and
Because there are guys in this app who don't.
he should be sending you money for wine.
I mean, even just like those little things like that. Like you're right, he should be sending you the money for the wine. Like if but at the same time, like even just like those little itty bitty tests are like
These
way.
tests are necessary. And these
That
are the tests that our mothers did not tell us. Again, Mocha Mama, you got lucky. But these are the tests that our mothers did not tell us. So we were on a race to the bottom. We were on a race to the bottom. We did not know that, especially like for childbearing. Gosh, I think I might have saved it on my phone. There was a white lady, I think on TikTok or something that had like this video clip. But when you're of childbearing age and you want to procreate with a man, you want to get married, you want to have children, these tests are not in vain because uh, if a Dusty looks at you, smiles, you end up getting pregnant, you have no idea what his character is. You have no idea if he's not willing to go downtown or to send you money for wine or to ask you out on a proper date and pull your chair out. These are hoops that they jump through for us to see how far they're willing to go for us. Because I know we want to believe that the guys love the children independently of us, but a lot of the love that they have for the children is based on the love that they have for us. So I think that that's where we've really been getting it wrong.
right, and I mean, I think they try to make it sound like you're materialistic or judgmental, but that's actually it's a term. It's called a Sahavian signal, and it's like an actual anthropological term. And it's across cultures where a woman has to rate a guy on his intention based on his effort. And that is a real thing. This is the thing that has moved the human race forward, and we should not feel guilty about it. We should not feel guilty about eliminating weakness from the human gene pool. We should not feel guilty about that. That's our job.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I'm gonna schedule this other video about learning to receive. I'll schedule it to post tomorrow morning because that's where that guilt, releasing that guilt comes from. So on my channel, because I know there's a lot of women in the level up dating space, and I don't really talk about hair. I don't talk about makeup. I don't talk about nails. I don't talk about clothes. I don't talk about handbags. I don't talk about a lot of that stuff. What I want to do on this channel is to talk about the internal piece. So when you talk about these, you have to repeat that phrase for me again, Mocha Mommy, but that that the
Sahavian signal.
Sahabian signal, the Sahabian
Yeah,
signal.
yeah. It's social scientist Gad Saad, Gadsaad. He's done like he's probably one of like the leading like anthropological social sciences. And when you listen to him and you see what's happening, you see that there's a reason for this. Like when people are like, "Oh, this dusty rhetoric is spreading to other races of men." No, honey, that's always been there. And there's what 7.8 billion people on Earth. It's really time to start thinning the herd. It sounds awful, but it really is true. I mean,
It
it sounds
it's
awful.
it's true. I think that I'm hopeful about this next generation of girls. I okay, so I need to write a letter. I need to write a an apology letter to a young lady who she she's Nigerian, and she was interning at a company I was working with a few years ago, and she was like, she was telling me basically she wasn't really into dating a Nigerian man, and she was, thinking about another guy. And at that time I was like, oh, get you a good Nigerian man. Some of them are okay. They're not all bad. And I kind of feel like she kind of shut down and, probably blew me off as just like a mammy who doesn't understand her. And, to some extent that's true. And I do owe her an apology because she's like, what? I think she was like 20, 21. And so
Right.
she had no intention of being with a Nigerian guy. She's from that culture and she's just over it.
Right.
And so, you know, I'm hopeful that um this next generation is going to get better. Now, with that other side of what's going on, most of most of what they say, I don't give a shit. The what bothers me is the violence, the undertone of violence,
Yes.
and that's what scares me because um, the entitlement. So, because we have this sort of intersection of these various misogynistic groups that feel like you don't have the right to turn them down for sex because they are entitled to it. You
Right.
have, like, that's why you're put on this earth. You're put on this earth to have sex with me. So, and I don't value anything that you don't get to not consent. So that scares me. And
Hmm.
the slapping sound effects saying that women, you see all kinds of stuff in the chat with like, um, rest in peace box, coffin,
Yeah.
and rest in peace, and comparing us to animals and things of that nature. And so that part scares me. And what I would
Right.
really like to see at this point in time is all these violent acts against Black women. I would love to see a social media audit made available to the public of what these violent males have been consuming, because I wouldn't be surprised if they're consuming this information just to
Yeah.
sort of continuously fortify in them their disdain and their frustration, their problems. And that is the other, like, oh, make me a sandwich and submit to me, whatever, blah. Oh, we've been listening to that for years.
Right.
The violence and the pedophilia scares me too.
Yes.
I was listening to one of these malospheres, and this guy was in his late. He was in his 30s, and he was talking about his late 20s. He picked a girl, 17. He started dating a 17-year-old girl,
Yep.
and he was
Hmm.
talking about it very proudly on the internet.
Yes.
And they want a woman who hasn't been touched. Okay, those are 9 times they're going to be girls. They're going to be
Right.
young girls. So if you feel entitled to sex, you only value, young girls with like, or like any type of woman that doesn't have any type of opinion. Those 9 times that you're going to be girls who are more impressionable.
Hmm.
The
Right.
the pedophilic vibes scare me.
Exactly. Yes. Which is kind of why we have to like start kind of having these conversations, and kind of warning them. And I remember the first time, the honest truth, he was here on your platform and he just like left you a little comment. But he was kind of saying that, like, he had found that information because he's on like a lot of these panels and he was talking about information. He had clips. He was showing like articles and blogs that they have. And I remember having this conversation with my daughter and one of her little friends. And the funniest thing, this little girl says, she's really country. She's from Arkansas, sweetest little thing. And she goes, "Is this why they have Campus Carry in Texas?" I just thought that was like, wow, that's exactly where your little mind went. Your mind went to like these
Protect
adult men
myself.
are trying to, yeah, right. Your mind went to this is why there's campus carry. Like, and so sometimes, like, yes, we do have to alert them and we do have to be conscious of what's happening. But at the same time, too, we got to give some of these young ladies credit. Like,
Mm.
for they know that we didn't. Like, I would have never known to look at some dude's batting average at a tournament based on just his last name, color, and number to say to my girlfriends, that dude's trash. Like, I would have never looked that up. Like, no, that dude, he's trash. Like, if he can't bat, he's trash. Like, like, wow. Like, that's insane. Like, I don't know. I think in some ways, I'm like nervous, but in other ways, I'm hopeful.
Me too. I share that sentiment as well. I'm
Yeah,
nervous and I'm hopeful. And
right.
I mean, I think most of the yeah, I make it be known that I'm one of them crazy mamas that you want to talk to the police. You want the police to come and help you. So um, I'm pretty, open about that. Not that baby right there. That baby right
Yeah,
there. And
right.
all of the babies in my sphere of influence, you know.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. I mean, I
It takes
want them
a
to know
village.
that my daughters are hard to date. I want them to know that. I mean, I totally love. I mean, yo, I love Tio Mingo and Tio Bebe and Tio Kike and Tio Oscar and Tio June and Tio like and why all of them feel that they need to show up before my daughter goes to the dance. All
Mhm.
9 of them. I want all of y'all here when that boy picks you up for the dance. Like, yeah, I get it that he had to get through like 5 of your uncles and you were a little bit embarrassed, but I want that to be your standard. Like, so, because I had that too. I had 2 uncles. I'm grateful that my daughters have 6 of them, you know, that are standing there for you. And that other boys know, like, if my intentions are not good, I'm going to get hemmed up, you know? So, yeah. But I just do hope that Black women start expanding their options and realize that other people not function like this. And and maybe the learning curve is on us.
I think Black women are expanding their options. I mean, there's other women, and you know how I know we're onto something is because many of the things I'm sharing is because I have come to the conclusion through various like ways and like just natural progression of like where I ended up. It's not because I got on someone's channel and they told me, oh, this is what you do. Okay, then do that. Okay, then do this. Okay, now do that. That's not what happened. Organically, this is where I have arrived. Organically, I was like, I'm done with Dusties. Like, no one told me the concept of it. I was just like, this type of dude, I'm done with it, period. And that's not me being on YouTube and anybody telling me that. And listening to other women who have come to similar places and even women who, for me, I was in the Black empowerment, RBG, nation building and all of this and that. Even women like me are done with the F stuff. We are like at this point in time, I think motherhood helps you. I think motherhood helps you to recalibrate yourself because you get put into a position where you have to provide a safe environment for someone else and you don't have as much to give. So when you're giving to a child and you have a dusty that requires similar care, you're like, hold on, no, 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 no. I can't do this with you. Like, I actually have an infant, so I can't do this with you. I'm not your mother. And so you start withdrawing, you start recalibrating, like, this is not working. I have to go back to the drawing board and redo everything because this right here is not working. And another thing that I've noticed for women who are single mothers, I'm noticing many, many women having one child with a dusty. And I think that that's progress.
Learn
They're
their
having,
lesson the first time. Yep.
yes, there are so many women who have one child with a Dusty. And after that one child, they're not having two, three, four baby daddy over there. No, no, no. They're like, okay, ooh, okay, all right. That was my one situation. And everything that I thought it was gonna be, that ain't what it is. So you realize how difficult and challenging motherhood is, how much you must invest into your child, with all the things, the organic food and the breastfeeding and the this and that and the baby sign language, and you're trying to do all the things. You're trying to do all the things, and you look over to your right, and your Dusty is not participating with you. You're not trying to run out and have another baby with another Dusty. You're not necessarily trying to do that. So yes, we still have quite a few single mothers, but it's not like the generation before where there's two, three, four with different dads and all this and that carrying on. It's a lot of women with one child. Even Jessica, that called into the show that day, one
Yes, one.
one
Yep.
son, because she realized, hey, this next time around, if I have more children, I'll be doing things differently. There's a lot of women like me, like Jessica. There's lots of women like us. One kid, you know, and we're getting it together.
And I think that's what's so frustrating to them is that you did learn your lesson and you're not an easy mark anymore. And I think that when I look at some of, I guess, and I hate using this, like that divestment platform, just how younger some of the viewing audiences, they realize that maybe they're not that easy mark anymore. I mean, and I definitely understand like the pushback and the vitriol, and it really is, yeah, and like I definitely know that they know that the tides are changing. But let's just hope that we can stay safe because, like you said, because there probably is going to be a lot of violent pushback. Like when I'm just seeing like how women are just feeling unsafe, just even not giving phone numbers or rejecting or walking past. So yeah, I think you're right. I think we do have to take our safety into consideration.
Yeah, I think we can maybe do some powwows about that because safety is an issue. I think that, I'll give you a brief example. I went out, I was on a date, mind you. I was on a date, and I went to this bar restaurant. They have like a full restaurant downstairs and a bar, and then upstairs it's just mostly like a bar and like a lounge area. So it's a lot of people there. And so my date is going to get me a drink. And so he's trying to get in. He's trying to get in where he fits in the bar to get me a drink. And I'm sort of like towards the end of the bar. And so this little Dusty comes up to me, and he was like, he said something to me, and I was like, oh, I'm on a date. And he was like, oh, where's your date? And I was like, he's right there. And he's like, oh, well, what y'all just meet? This your first date? He's gonna have this is gonna be a great one night stand. And I was like, okay, I'm on a date. You don't have to be rude. And he was like, what do you mean being rude? And he's like squaring up with me. I kid you not. He's like, the way he's posturing his body, it's like he's like trying to square up with me. And I'm just shrinking. And like, luckily, like security was there. And so I started going over to the security, and I think I asked him a question like, you know, what time is it or something. I just asked the security a question so he could start talking to me. And then the guy sort of like went away. But I mean, how bizarre is that? But like, that's like the real life everyday experience. Like, these Dusties have nothing to lose. They don't value us, and they will be ready to do anything at any given time. I'm literally on a date.
Yeah, I mean, it happens to me with a wedding ring on, with a wedding ring on, you know? And I guess maybe they think, well, she's black, I'm black, we're the only few black people in this place. I must, I have to feel entitled. Um, but it's like, no, I'm here with somebody. And I mean, there have been multiple times. And please don't make no mistake. My husband is not like, I mean, and there have been times when he's had to square up because of how people talk to and approach our daughters. Like, he's
Yeah.
like, no, he's like, like, guess what? The boys' fields are over there, because again, seeing they think they're entitled to us specifically. Like when like we're supposed to buy them food at the concession stand because we're just supposed to be so glad that they gave us attention. And when we're not, oh man, like, oh, like, you know what I mean? Like some guy came up to my daughter was like, oh, you should buy me an icy. Like, what? And just to feel you could just come out your face and talk like that? Like, you must be kidding me. No, they really do. Like,
Wow. I would be so
yeah,
embarrassed. I would be so embarrassed. I mean, I don't know if I'm gonna have any more children, but if my son did that, and he wouldn't do it. He would never. I would never raise a son to do some dumb shit like that. That's crazy.
right. And I kind of get it because, you'll have like these private sports clubs and these private sports teams, and they all are able to like eat at the concession stands. But then there's some teams who come from like the Department of Parks and they get sponsored in. And you do feel a little bit. So when you do see another black face, you're thinking, okay, maybe this person, but then you don't know how to come at me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you could have just really talked yourself out of, like, when I think about how much money, like, my husband's company and his colleagues give to these leagues, you just probably talked yourself out of getting your dues paid next year because you decided to be rude over a $3 icy. Like, somebody explain it to these
That's
boys,
a
like, hey, there's a
that's a
lot more
lack
to
of home.
lose.
That's a lack of home training.
Right. And then
That's a
even if
lack
you
of
don't
home
get it at
training.
home, where's your coach to tell you, like, act right when you get here simply because you don't know how many of these folks are here are writing checks for you to be here and who can take you to that next level. Act
His
right
mom,
when you get here.
his mom and his daddy should have told him, "Son, you go get food for the girl. You
Right.
go
You're
get
right.
food for her. And if you don't know, son, figure it out." How many times we should just told black boys, "Go figure it out, and don't come
Exactly.
back in this house until you figured it out. I don't want to hear no excuses. Figure
Right.
it out." But
Or when it can, yeah.
we just let them skate by. We just do all the work for them. And then we're like, oh, he didn't know that he was supposed to go and get this girl something to eat. It just happened by accident. No, you guys have been failing to teach the lessons that this young boy should have been getting. He should never have opened his mouth up to ask some random woman, some young pretty girl to go get him something to eat. What was wrong with you? Lack of
Right.
lack of home training.
Lack of home training. And I get it because there's a lot of them who don't have dads present. But those coaches there didn't tell you, like, hey, listen, if you guys go to this tournament, you better get some act right because guess
His
what?
mama could have taught him that. His mama could have taught him that.
You're right. You're right.
I know we want to sit up here. Oh, you can't raise a man. You can't raise a man. Yeah, maybe we can't teach him every single thing, like how to shave and this and that. Maybe there's some
Right.
things but there's a lot of things that we can do better.
You're
There's
right.
a lot of things that we can do better with boys.
You're right.
Seriously. Like
And
we have
right.
dropped the ball.
You're right. Yeah, you're absolutely right with that one. You're right. You're right. Like we should have told those little boys like don't act like this. And then just like thinking too like I don't think that they realize how many bridges that they're burning with their mentality.
Yeah.
Um they do have opportunity. But anyway, my phone's about to go out of charge, but thank you for having this live and I do hope wish you good luck on your dates because it sounds like you're setting yourself up to have some fun and have some great experiences. So thank you for this.
Thank you, Mocha Mommy, as always. All right, y'all. Mocha Mommy beat me to the punch. I was just about to let y'all know that I was about to end the live. I did share the link if anybody wanted to call in. Didn't get any other callers besides Mocha Mommy. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. If you didn't come towards the beginning, at the very beginning of the live, like once it loads and stuff like that, that's when I was actually talking about the logistics of the different dates that I have going on, and a new conversation that I started with new conversations that I've started with Asian men that have gone over well, and that I'm opening myself up more, to just, have my eyes open for Asian men. And so far it's going good. They seem to be actually like pursuing and trying to set up dates and have been accommodating thus far. So thank you so much. Please like, comment, and share and subscribe if you haven't already. Have a blessed and prosperous night. Peace.